Whoa. NBA Central just put out a tweet that has the Spurs with the third best odds of landing a star big. And we're going to discuss what all of this means and the possibility of this happening for the San Antonio Spurs here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. And if you haven't yet, make sure you guys take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment by hitting that free subscribe button so you don't miss all the great content we have coming for you. But let's just get right underway with it. It says the Lakers are the favorites to land Bam Adebayo in potential trade per Bovada official. Lakers at plus 190. Grizzlies at plus 260. The Spurs at plus 300. Those aren't even terrible odds. And you have to think with Miami, they just missed out on getting Kevin Durant because they didn't want to give up some of their young pieces, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic. They didn't want to really part with those young pieces, and obviously they weren't going to get rid of Bam or Tyler Hero. They wanted to pair Kevin Durant together. So the Houston Rockets had a better package for him. And as Brian talked about, I believe that we were able to dodge a bullet just because of the price point. They gave up a high-level prospect in Jalen Green. You give up a great role player, I won't say great, a good role player in Dillon Brooks, and the 10th overall pick in this draft. That would have been the equivalent, to me, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, the 14th pick in the draft, and then probably a 2030 first-round pick swap. Roughly would have been that. And I don't love that for Kevin Durant, especially when we're going to have to pay him. If you would have kept Jeremy Sochan, got rid of Harrison Barnes, I could deal with that. But all Sochan plus the pick, I wouldn't have loved that. But we still have all of the trade assets in the world, and Bam Adebayo would fit us perfectly. 18 points a game, about 10 rebounds, 1 block-ish a game, 1 steal. We know how good of a versatile defender he is. He can step out on a guard if he needs to. He can guard in the post, of course. He is shown to be one of the better big man defenders in the game of basketball. Plus, this guy has an offensive game that was 4.3 assists. That was obviously with him not having the offense ran through him. We saw it run through Tyler Hero this year, which landed him to be an all-star. So, with the ability for Bam Adebayo to do a little bit of everything, he can stretch out and hit that three, but he plays a really good high post. He can play a low post. He is not afraid to get his back to the basket. The one thing about Bam Adebayo that has been a problem, or not a problem, but something that the Heat have wanted him to take the next step forward, was being a true offensive initiator game in and game out. It's the same thing that Anthony Davis kind of dealt with a little bit throughout his career, that aggression every single night to be the best offensive player, if not one of the best offensive players on the floor game in and game out. And Bam Adebayo wouldn't even have to do that if he was to join the San Antonio Spurs. He would be in a position where it would be okay. That 18-9 would be perfect. He doesn't have to put up 23 and 11, which is what the Heat would need him to do right now for the Heat to be successful for sure. But when you have Wemby, when you have De'Aaron Fox, when you have Stephon Castle, when you most likely have Dylan Harper, you're able to generate offense in many different ways, and Bam would be able to plug in at that 4-5 position with Wemby perfectly. He could anchor the offense and the defense with Wemby off the floor. You can play them in conjunction because both of them can do a lot of things. Bam Adebayo would be a phenomenal piece to this roster. So now that we know that the fit would be there, let's talk about how it actually would go down. So first we got to talk about, here's Bam's contract. I showed this $34 million, obviously this year, $37 next year, then $48, $52, and $56. That $56 is a player option. So it's going to be interesting trade-wise, because that money starts to get tight, because then you get into De'Aaron Fox extension, then you get into Victor Wembanyama's extension, then you get into Stephon Castle's rookie extension kicking in, you get into the Dylan Harper roughly around probably a year or two after that, so it's not the biggest of deals, but Stephon Castle's probably on his last year of his deal at that point. Let me look here. Actually, we can look together. Stephon Castle, would be on the last. It would be going into his rookie extension that year. So that last year would be a little hairy. But doesn't really matter at this point because 28-29 is not what we're worried about at this moment. And besides, we can restructure things if we need to move off of pieces at that point, maybe De'Aaron Fox or something at that point because Dylan Harper's ascended. The league and how it is with the aprons and everything, it's going to be interesting to see how teams have to maneuver and operate forward, but we know we're a progressive organization with a forward-thinking mindset. But right now in the now, that financially works. We're sending out, almost get out of myself. So we would have to be sending out a few picks here and a few pieces here, which I'm going to show you a mock trade that I put together, something that would be roughly in the realm based off other mock trades that we've seen out there and what people have been going for, the going rates of said players here moving forward. So let's actually just get right into that. If that's tough to see, I am sorry, but that is Bam Adebayo coming to the San Antonio Spurs. We're giving up Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, the 14th pick in this year's draft. We are giving up 2 second-round picks and a future pick swap in 2029 with the Miami Heat. So, Devin Vassell, of course, he's going to be a piece, and I think that 1, contractually it works. 2, he's actually on a pretty good contract. And 3, for the Heat, you get another shot creator to go alongside of Tyler Hero. You could play a Tyler Hero, Devin Vassell backcourt, and that could get you some buckets for sure. And plus, when Tyler Hero goes to the bench, Devin Vassell could come in, so I think they would like that. You get Jeremy Sochan. We have to throw him in there because at this point, with Jeremy Sochan's contract here, as you see, next year is going to be the last year of his deal, and then we're going to have to give him money. If we're going to be getting Bam, we're not going to be able to pay him the money that he would need. So honestly, moving off of him and getting some sort of trade value is going to be nice, and the Miami Heat would be able to kind of fill in the Bam spot, a guy who's versatile as a defender on the perimeter. He can play defense, but he also can play interiorly. He's obviously not as big as Bam Adebayo, but he is a pretty solid paint defender. So you would get a guy like Jeremy Sochan there for Miami. We would obviously get off of that, and then you get a couple picks. It's similar to what the Lauri Markkanen deals going around were. Lauri Markkanen was for Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, the 14th pick, and then maybe a 2029 swap or something along those lines. So again, let me go back to this trade. It would be we getting Bam Adebayo, then it'd be Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, the 14th pick in this year's draft. We still, of course, keep number 2. Miami would get 14, and then they'd have 20 as well in the first round, so to be able to build there in the future, plus a couple seconds and then a future swap. For Miami, they get to build for the future because right now they are not a contender. They get to keep Tyler Hero, get another building block in Devin Vassell, get a young piece in Jeremy Sochan, 2 of the first 20 picks in this year's draft, and then they kind of get to go from there, and hopefully they can develop around that Khalil Ware, Nikola Jovic, and that. We, on the other hand, more importantly on the other hand, we would get Bam Adebayo. Our starting 5 would be I'll say it in order. It would be De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Bam Adebayo, and Victor Wembanyama. And then off the bench, we would have whoever we draft in the second round at the 38th pick, most likely. But we would also have Charles Bassey. Let me bring it up here. We have Charles Bassey. We would have Harrison Barnes still. We would still have Julian Champagnie. We would still have Keldon Johnson. And then all we would need to do is go get a backup big, someone of not even great consequence at that point because of the fact that Bam Adebayo would be able to take a lot of those big minutes. I love this for the San Antonio Spurs. If they have to give up that to get Bam, I'm super happy with it because Bam is just a connecting piece. He is not a guy who you need to build an offense around. He's not a guy who needs to have this and that. He is a very low-maintenance style of player who is a true connector and one of those guys who is a championship piece. We saw him in 2 different finals runs for the Miami Heat getting to the finals, make big plays defensively in the bubble or in 2023 when they got to the finals there. He was big for them. And I think that he could come in and be a veteran presence for Victor Wembanyama, for the San Antonio Spurs team, a guy who has been there and done that deep into the pinnacles of the NBA. plus at the same time, you get a guy who is easily plug and play, a guy who you can play with. I think that this here would be perfect for the San Antonio Spurs. This type of player. Kevin Durant, as lovely as that would have been to get a guy like Kevin Durant and what he can do, a guy like Bam Adebayo, especially because he's still young, that long-term view with Bam Adebayo would be phenomenal. But let me know what you guys think in the comments about this, about Bam Adebayo, and obviously the chances of him coming to San Antonio. What do you feel? Do you feel like this should be the move? Or again, do we feel after the Kevin Durant saga, Giannis not looking like he's going anywhere, we just sit pat and then we just sit back and maybe trade off Devin Vassell or no one and just roll with it next year? Let me know in the comments. This has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I will be seeing all of you guys very soon.